The new Alfa Romeo bestseller will probably be the all-new Alfa Romeo Toнале. We have two cars here for you today, two different colors and two different trims. This one here is Misano Blue in the Veloce trim. The Veloce trim is the sporty trim. We'll tell you all about it here with Toma스는 Autogefühl. For example, that grille is in a matte black style, typical Alfa Romeo form with the famous logo. What a beautiful front grille, isn't it? And also the lower part you can see in a very sporty, darker style. Of course, this is my favorite color. You see it also in my fitting jacket. But here also the headlamps. You can see 1, 2, 3. Beautiful structure. Optional with matrix LED. And we directly also have the TI version for you. This one here in Montreal green. Also very screaming out color. And you can see here the front grille. Same form, but then this chrome style. Also the lower lip more bright. So the TI is the more elegant solution. You can see it also here, whereas the Veloce is definitely the sportier trim this year as the first impression. The wheels go from 18 to 20 inch, 19 inch for the Veloce, but here you can see these then are the optional 20 inch, the biggest ones available in this typical and very famous Alfa Romeo style with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. We have them here on both vehicles, but the difference once again, the TI has not only the TI logo here, but also in the lower part these bright accentuations, whereas here in the Veloce trim we have once again the dark accentuation in the lower part, so once again the sportier look. The length, in all cases, is 4 meters 53 or 178 inches, so the smallest Alfa SUV so far. And considering also the price, it's about 16,000 euros or dollars less expensive than the bigger Alfa Stelvio in the midsize segment. This year a compact SUV. This one will most probably be the most sold Alfa model very, very soon. As for suspension details, you either get a base suspension, which already has hydraulic cushions, and then here the Veloce version comes with the adaptive suspension, which also changes then when you control the driving selector on the interior. By the way, if you wondered, hey, I didn't read Veloce here, usually this would read Veloce, here the badge, but here it says Speciale, because this one is a launch edition of the very early models that are being sold, but this is basically the Veloce trim, it just has a different badge if you order it that early then. The Veloce in the back, you can see that beautiful light signature, and in the lower part, everything then blacked out. Here in the TI, it doesn't look that different, but here in the very low part, once again, there is this bright accentuation that differentiates these two versions. But I mean, look at that. I think design-wise, that's also why people always have bought Alfa Romeo. They just nail it from design. It's beautiful, Emazioni Italian design. And here once again with a beautiful light signature. And by the way, it also looks really amazing with the turning indicators. And by that I mean the ones in the front, because you have this cascading style with this 3 split. This looks really cool, so no matter if turning indicator or hazard lights, everyone will see you. Just in the rear here, yeah, that is then a little bit disappointing. And here, look at that, even better when I put some light on it. There is the Quadrifoglio logo right in the headlamps. This is kind of like an Easter egg. Will there be a Quadrifoglio version at some point? I doubt. Or? It's really hard to see, but just that you know the location, headlamps, and then it's right here. And another nice detail I really like these emotional details, here the Italy flag in the side mirrors. Now let's compare the interiors, Veloce versus TI. Once again, sportiness versus elegance. But first of all, Autogefühl test here with Thomas for the door closing sound, which is actually quite solid. However, inside of the doors, rather hard back in the top part. This one in here is soft, and this one is of course then more important for your elbows. The Veloce with the red contrast stitches right here. Quality of the materials here is, let's say, mediocre. But then really cool is, first of all, look at that sporty steering wheel. That looks really nice. The buttons here, once again, quality-wise, not that great. But I'm glad we still have real buttons to press and not hashtag capacitive BS like with so many other manufacturers recently. And huge shifting panels here, Maserati inspired, so to speak. Then these beautiful Alcantara seats, they are also completely animal free. Also the side bolsters here from Leatherette. They are also using less energy and less resources in the production. And a very interesting idea with this kind of perforation in the Alcantara, more breathable, and then with a red background that kind of dissolves to the side. So I love this attention to detail by Alfa Romeo, also with the Alpha stitching here in these head restraints. So these are my favorite seats to go for. I'll soon show you the other ones, the different ones that are available. And let's take a seat actually. How sporty or how comfortable is it? And for me, with the 1.89 m or 6'2", let's see, headroom-wise still fits in the lowest position, so also suitable for tall people, although it's their compact SUV. And the seats are indeed, holding you tight, quite sporty, but the Alcantara surface makes it soft enough. So comfort-wise, I can already tell you right now, I would prefer these seats here in the Veloce version. This is, by the way, the key fob. It's light, not too premium, but also not too bad. And now we have here the TI version for you. And this very vehicle comes with a so-called premium package. These are seats with a mix of animal skin and leatherette with perforation. This one here does not have the standard TI steering wheel, but also the steering wheel from the Veloce, that option actually. And here we overview, once again, nice Italian styling. This here, interesting surface actually, feels kind of slick. However, the dashboard here is quite hard once again. Screen popped up. This is here 10.25 inch. Digital instruments 12.3 inch. Soon more details to that actually. And I really love that here, the lower area, they have real climate controls. So no hashtag capacitive BS, easy to control while driving. This is here the drive mode selector where you can switch these driving modes, go for more dynamic driving mode, for example, more throttle input. And if you have an adaptive suspension, like in the Veloce version, then also the suspension mode would change. In the front part, you have USB-C and USB-A charger and inductive charging underneath. Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, both wireless or with cable. Then we have here the shifting lever. It's like a proper big one actually. And then we have here this volume jog and another Italy flag. Cup holders are somewhat adaptive with these rubber pads here. And then we have this nice covered armrest. However, the attachment here, that is not that good in the build quality. Digital instruments, and they have really nice animations right there. With that as a welcome light. And when I line it all up, let's see, yep. So it's all digital. Left side here I have like this normal speed. Right side the RPM. And then when you switch the driving modes, they also adapt a little bit in the styling. This one here, for example, then the dynamic mode. And what's, by the way, also pretty cool, when I turn off the engine then, you have this goodbye animation. Infotainment system here, all new Alfa Romeo. And you can see here, for example, you can change also the ambient lighting colors. I'll soon show you that when it's a little bit darker outside. And everything works quite quickly. Here, let's see also the map is TomTom feature. It's an option for that GPS, for that screen here, the GPS. And you see here, we are at Lago di Como today, by the way. So greetings to our Italian friends. And it's quite responsive, so really good step forward. And also the Apple CarPlay Android Auto integration looks like this. And this here is also equipped with the optional 14-speaker Harman Kardon system. And we have to say, great sound. Yeah, just like, from a, built in the BMWs. Very crystal clear and also good bass, good surround sound. Love that system. For music lovers, it's a must.
Please, Thomas, show me the rear cam.
Oh, rear camera. Thank you, Thomas. Thomas B. We had Thomas M and Thomas B today. Or Thomas, like the two double Thomas team. This rear camera here. And then you also have this surround camera right here. And you can also switch different views here. This is in the front camera where we see the Misano blue one. And that interesting truck. Or like this with a different angle, and the resolution is actually quite okay. And here the ambient lighting, where it's a little bit darker, you can switch red, yellow, white, green. Today, of course, here's the green to our car, or then the Thomas blue, of course, to the Misano blue color. Rear seats here, when I have the driver's seat to my position. It gets close with the knees, but it works for 4 or maybe 5 tall adults. And you sit relatively high in the rear. That will be good for kids, for example. However, still enough headroom left, so I do easily fit in here. And it's actually a quite cozy seating position here. What about the middle seat here? Can you put the 5th seat here? Yeah, because it's not too high. It's actually quite good. So yeah, 5 tall adults do work. Here in the middle console we have a USB-A and USB-C charger, so both are available. And then we can also fold down this armrest. We have cup holders, but they are not adaptive. And then directly from here we can also open that ski hatch to the rear. Hatch here for the trunk. Let's take a look. The length is not that convincing. It's 80 centimeters or 31 inches. And also the width, this is rather just, it's about 90 centimeters, around 90 centimeters. That's about 35 inches. Usually trunks in this segment should be a meter or 40 inches. But that's the thing where the great design with the nice hip area just has a toll on the interior space. However, the height overall is actually, quite okay. Here, 40 centimeters or 16 inches under the cover. However, you can lift this one up and then you can have a deeper trunk like this. You have the tire repair kit in here. It also would house a replacement tire, that's for sure. And then you have, if you want, even more height available. And when we fold the bench, we reach around 160 centimeters or 61 inches. Capacity, by the way, 500 up to 1,550 liters. And the closing of the hatch here, this would be a EU press, like a European pressing the button. And the more American regulation is that you hold it a little bit longer or press it a little bit longer. And they did it because they have one software version for the vehicle, both for the US and for the EU market. And that's why we as Europeans are a little bit irritated if it doesn't close with one short click, because, the US regulation for that is a little bit different. And now Alfa Romeo fans, all the Alfisti, how do you call them, have to be very strong. Because there's a front-wheel driven diesel for an Alfa Romeo. 1.6 liter. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Or am I? But this one is not a diesel. This one here is the 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine, 130 or 160 horsepower. It's also front-wheel drive. And interesting is that it's not exactly mild hybrid, but also not like a big hybrid. It's something in between. So it's not hybrid in the sense of like Toyota's offering, but it's also more than just a mild hybrid. So you can have indeed moments where you drive all electric with this electrified, so to speak, turbo petrol engine. So very interesting. We will drive the 160 horsepower version today. In the US market, there will also be a 2-liter petrol engine, turbo petrol engine available. They are all 4 cylinders. And the most powerful one will be the hybrid. That one, the 1.3 liter of displacement, but with electric motor on the rear axle. The only then that has all-wheel drive, because the electric rear axle is powered by the electric motor. And you can also drive that one then rear-wheel drive only if you drive all electric. 6.2 seconds then the quickest engine actually. But today, testing the 1.5. It's very interesting. I talked to the engineer yesterday, and they're running a Miller cycle here for more efficiency, and at the same time they have a variable turbo geometry. So that actually has the effect that the maximum torque already begins at 1,500 RPM, goes to 3,000 RPM, and then even then the power curve is not really falling quickly. So let's see how that one turns out. Alpha Tonale driving partner. Wow, look at that. That's the reason why people buy Alfa Romeo. You see here the mirroring in that window when we pass it here with the vehicle. Wow, that looks just amazing. And this is that emozioni that the Italian designers have thought of actually. And this actually brings joy to your life. Then let's take a stroll with the updated engine, and it's very interesting. This does share the platform with the Jeep Compass, but the big question is, does it also drive like a Jeep Compass, or does it drive completely different? You feel that you have some assist by the electric moment, so to speak, But it's not that it would feel like a true hybrid or so, you know. It more feels like a petrol engine, more drives like a mild hybrid for sure. The interesting thing is really that the maximum torque already begins at 1,500 RPM, as I talked to the engineer yesterday evening, and this is something they specially tuned here for the Alfa Tonale in comparison also to the Jeep Compass. So that was the warning of the autonomous emergency brake. These guys in the Alpha department, they must have been sitting there and they say, come on, let's do something so funny, which is good for safety, but also for fun. And they must have sit there and laughed their dude off, creating that horn. How versatile the car is. That's good. Easy steering. At the same time, it does feel actually quite natural. And it also differs from the driving mode. For example, I'm in a normal neutral driving mode. In the dynamic driving mode, you have a little bit more resistance then. You have also more throttle input, and the engine is also a little bit more responsive. But now we already experienced the advantages of this vehicle. It's just smaller, it's narrow, it's a compact SUV, and therefore very suitable here to the city traffic. And I already feel here, as soon as we go a little bit in the corners, left and right, squeeze somewhere in there, it already transports this driving fun. And let's now see how much power this engine has from 30 kilometers an hour. Let's go. 60, 90, 80 was, yeah. Whoa, interesting. And when I hit the brake a little bit harder, automatically goes for the hazard lights there. That's powerful. And I mean, it wasn't too loud, but that was a pretty quick acceleration indeed. So yeah, the performance from the engine is really neat. By the way, I do prefer the dynamic mode, especially from the steering, because in a normal mode, it's just too light actually, you know, so feels like moving through thin air. It does definitely have a sporty setup, and yeah, it does drive very differently to the Jeep Compass indeed. You do feel platform. That was probably because the sensors were thinking I hit the wall on the right side. So you do feel platform resemblance, Jeep Compass, and also to the Fiat models. But this one here, definitely with the sporty setup here, with the more torque intensive engine, does deliver you a unique driving feeling. The Stelvio, however, with that rear-wheel driven platform, which is shared with the Giulia, however, feels more Alfisti, or for Alfistis. Here, by the way, you can see very well now, once again, the ambient lighting. And we can also switch that through here once again. Yeah, that looks cool, right? Green, white, yellow, and red. Ooh, yeah, that fits to the racing driving mode. Green, of course, into this very TI vehicle. So this is a very nice emotional feature, I love that. I'm really happy I picked these roads because that is where this vehicle is shining. It is smaller, it is more compact, it is lighter, and it's really a lot of fun, especially then in tight roads. And when there may be like some oncoming traffic like here, and I would be in the Stelvio now, I was like, oh, is that fitting? Is that fitting? Maybe I have to fall in the mirrors, and here it's still more or less relaxed. Interesting with this mild hybrid 2 hybrid system here, by the way, when you're really at zero now, still electric, 10 kilometers an hour, 12, 13, still electric, no RPM. It's really now there the RPM set in, and that's again, this would not happen with the mild hybrid, and with the Toyota style hybrid we would have more electric moments. So very interesting that they actually picked something in between. And this will be a big thing at Alfa Romeo. So in 2027, they will go fully electric. Wait a minute. Not as in all new cars are electric then. No, they will only sell electric vehicles also from the existing one, basically in beginning 2027. That means this one will probably be the most sold Alfa very soon. And this will only be sold about 5 years, and then it's kind of like cancelled? That's a strange decision, isn't it? However, what is interesting is that Alfa has the fastest transition of any car manufacturers from having 0 electric vehicles to fully electric. No one does that in this short period of time. That is definitely, they were very late to the party, but then they want to be early in having it very consistently. That's also the reason why this all-new model has so much electrification, here then going beyond mild hybrid, then the plug-in hybrid model as well, which will then feature this electrically driven rear axle. But I have to say, sporty setup with 20-inch wheels, to me, a little bit too uncomfortable. Maybe that's better than with the adaptive suspension. Steering wheel, a little bit too light. However, likable driving feeling, definitely. A lot of fun. Yes, it does deliver that driving fun. Comfort for tall guys could be a little bit better. There it's definitely better in the Stelvio. But you have these advantages of the compact dimensions, and when you have a lot of city traffic share, then it will actually be better. Well, but now, what again, if we pick another vehicle with the adaptive suspension, how differently will this one actually drive? And now we have moved to the adaptive suspension in the Veloce version. We are driving the very same engine here. It's just that we now have that adaptive suspension in the Veloce. We have the very same wheels, actually. This is then also very good to compare these. So what difference does it make? Well, first of all, when you're driving just around town and so on, switching a little bit of lanes, and there's even ground, you hardly feel any difference. And also these 20-inch wheels, they make the ride indeed very stiff. So my first tip would really be to stick with smaller wheels if you seek more comfort. And again, this car is making the ride somewhat rough indeed with the 20-inch wheels. So with the adaptive suspension, the difference is not super large that you would immediately say like, wow, this feels completely different also. It is a small notable difference. However, the main difference is actually that you can make it even stiffer. This one here is actually the normal driving mode. And then we have this additional button here in the middle console inside the driving mode selector. And you can switch it to then the dynamic driving mode, to the D. And then the suspension gets even stiffer. But then you can also say like, hey, I want the dynamic driving mode. I want like the increased throttle input, a little bit more feedback from the steering wheel, but I want the rather soft suspension. And then you can press this suspension button inside, and then again you have the dynamic mode, but with the normal, I would say the normal soft suspension if it would be soft, but it kind of isn't, So that's the thing. So the question is then, should you invest the money and go for the adaptive suspension? I think that's not the real crucial point. I think rather save money and get smaller wheels. That's the more crucial point. However, it makes somewhat sense to go for the Veloce version to get the nice Alcantara seats, for example. That is cool. And also, of course, when you want the sportier styling of the Veloce, because that's definitely very beautiful. I would have expected a little bit more from that adaptive suspension, but as I said, not the largest difference. This will not be the crucial factor when picking this vehicle. But I hope you really enjoy that we show you these differences then in our driving reviews. Have you seen the review of the bigger brother of the Alfa Stelvio? And what about the competitor, the Audi Q3?